DeAndre Hunter, welcome to Cleveland. Koby Altman has pulled off not a blockbuster, but a pretty significant trade here just an hour before the trade deadline comes to pass. The Cleveland Cavaliers have acquired DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for Caris Levert, George Niang, and a plethora of second-round picks. According to Chris Fedor of Cleveland.com, they are still looking for a third team to help finalize this deal so all the teams involved can get under the luxury tax as of right now. According to Chris Fedor, the second-round picks the Cavaliers are sending to Atlanta are in 2027, 2029, and 2031. So basically, the Cavs have turned Caris Levert, George Niang, and 3 second-round picks into DeAndre Hunter. It was reported this morning that the Cavs were the front runners for DeAndre Hunter, and just a few hours later, the deal becomes official. We're going to dive into DeAndre Hunter in 1 second, but first, I want to say thank you to Caris Levert and George Niang for what they've done helping the Cavaliers reach this point at 41-10 on the season, for being part of the last couple of seasons for Levert, the last 2 seasons for George Niang. I don't know Caris as well as I know George, but I can tell you in the locker room, they both will be dearly missed. I tweeted this out earlier. I will stand on business with this. I will repeat it time after time after time after time. George Niang is the world's ultimate glue guy. He would be on the Mount Rushmore of NBA teammates if there was a Mount Rushmore of NBA teammates. He is that important to the crux and the mental makeup of this team. But you got to do business, and the NBA is a business. And Koby Altman felt that the future for the Cleveland Cavaliers was brighter with DeAndre Hunter than it would have been with Caris on an expiring contract and George Niang moving forward. So I just wanted to say thank you for their services. They will truly be missed. And to George specifically, thank you for our conversations, and hopefully I wish you the absolute best in Atlanta. I saw someone tweet at me because the Cavs did open up a roster spot. By making this move, could George be bought out and potentially brought back to Cleveland? I don't know how he fits into Atlanta's future plans, so maybe, but I would say that's probably pretty unlikely. But I don't want to say no. It is certainly a possibility. I would lean towards the more unlikely side. So thank you to those two. But the big picture, and I mean this with 100% sincerity, and I mean this when I say I couldn't have imagined this beforehand, I truly mean that. Koby Altman just landed DeAndre Hunter without giving up either of the Cavaliers' 2 best assets. He acquired DeAndre Hunter without giving up Jalen Tyson or the 2031 first-round pick. And on top of that, the Cavs are now under the luxury tax, which, if they stay, means the repeater offender clock does not kick in until next season and becomes a much less punitive derailment in the 2027, 2028, 2029 season when Donovan Mitchell's extension is at its maximum value and Evan Mobley and Darius and Jarrett are all at their full contractual value. So, baseline picture, the Cavs got a starting caliber 3-and-D guy who projects to be in their closing lineups, who can shoot the 3 ball, who is arguably now, and I would say arguably, but I really think it's not much of a question, he probably is their best perimeter defender for wings with a 7'2" wingspan for an expiring contract in Caris Levert, for a locker room hero in George Niang, and 3 second-round picks. You got a 3-and-D plug-and-play closing lineup kind of guy without giving up Jalen Tyson, your best young player, outside of Evan Mobley, you know what I'm saying, and your 2031 first-round pick. Kudos. I didn't think it'd be possible to pull it off without including either Tyson or the 2031 first, and he did it without including both of them. So, Koby, I know a lot of people were critical when you did not make a move this offseason, and so far through 51 games, that has been thrown back in our faces. You've been proven correct thus far, and now you just pulled off a deal for DeAndre Hunter, who's having a career best season in Atlanta, is under team control for another 2 years, is only 27 years old, without having to give up your 2 most valuable assets to acquire future talent down the road. I have to hand it to him. I hate to lose George Niang, and Caris Levert's an expiring, but at the end of the day, if you ask me what puts the Cavaliers closer to a championship over the next 3 seasons, DeAndre Hunter in the core 4 or the core 4, Caris Levert and George Niang and a couple potential second-round picks, the answer is DeAndre Hunter. So from a pure basketball standpoint, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers and Koby Altman have an absolute slam dunk deal on their hands. I'm really looking to find, other than having to give up George and what he brings to the locker room, the downside here. It was never a question of could DeAndre Hunter help this team. The question was always, well, they have to overpay for a guy because the market's relatively thin. They don't have a ton of assets. They don't have that one thing that Atlanta would really covet. So you may have to give them a couple of B or C pieces and add it together to make Atlanta feel whole. But that wasn't even the case. 3 second-round picks, and I understand second-round picks are more valuable now in the current CBA than they were in the past, but 3 second-round picks and 2 guys that came off the bench, both had valuable roles, but 2 bench players for a guy who you can slide into the starting 5 with the core 4. You can leave him in his current 6-man role, which he was playing in Atlanta. You could have him be your defensive stopper, which he was for the first couple of years he was with the Hawks. This year, he's taken a step back defensively because they have Dyson Daniels and Zachariah Reese-Shea and some other big wings. So he's been asked to take more of an offensive approach, and he fits in pretty well. It is impressive to me that they were able to hold on to both assets in Tyson in the first-round pick and add a guy who presumably will be in their closing 5. And you could argue that, Dean Wade could be that guy. Now you have positional versatility because you can play Wade with Hunter with 1 big. If you want to go mega size, you can play both bigs, Hunter, Wade, and Darius or Donovan. Kenny now has a versatile Swiss Army knife to deploy on other teams, whether it be defensively and or offensively, that turns the Cavs in certain lineups from a team that we all looked at and said they don't really have a ton of size to a potential front line of either Mobley or Allen at the center, Wade and Hunter as your 3-4 wings switching, and then 2 smaller guards, but average that out across the board, and you have 3 guys over 6'8", and Hunter as a 7'2" wingspan who can guard up and can also guard down. It gives him a lot of different weapons and a lot of different options to pick and choose which kind of lineup he wants to go with that best attacks the other team's weakness. The Cavs can play big now. The Cavs can play small. I mentioned this on UCSS earlier, but with a 7'2" wingspan, against certain teams that don't have a true post-up center, you could throw DeAndre at the 5. And Dean Wade's played a little small ball 5 before and gives you a legit Warriors-esque, and I say S because no one will ever compete with the Warriors, and DeAndre Hunter is certainly not Draymond Green at the center position, but you have the versatility to throw out a lineup like that for a few minutes and see if you can catch lightning in a bottle. At the end of the day, I think it's a really, really, really smart and well-executed trade for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who now have, in my opinion, a higher ceiling than they did 2 hours ago or 25 minutes ago when the news broke. The Cavs played Boston on Tuesday night. And while I don't think defense was their main issue in that game, there were times, and it was noticeable at times, where they're trying to guard much bigger wing defenders or wing attackers with the likes of Max Strus and Sam Merrill and Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And the Celtics in particular, they try to hunt those mismatches and they force you into switches, which happens in basketball. That's not a Cavaliers issue. That is a league-wide philosophy. Well, now you have a guy in DeAndre Hunter who you can play alongside any combination of smalls and bigs that gives you a guy that if he gets switched onto a point guard, should be able to keep him in front or at least do what he's able to do to make it a much more difficult shot, who could also switch onto a big a la a Kristaps Porzingis. And while he shouldn't be able to slow down Porzingis, he should be able to at least impede his roll to the basket and make him take an extra half second, which allows the help to come down and then you can rotate out. And he's a guy that, if you look at the metrics, is having a career-best offensive season. Now, hand up, I still feel this way. From an offensive perspective, I thought Cam Johnson fit with the Cavaliers better than DeAndre Hunter did. I showed you guys the numbers and the percentile from the corner, which is a major spot for the Cavs fifth starter to shoot from. And Cam Johnson was in the 95th percentile. DeAndre Hunter was in the 55th percentile. In terms of drive and kick rate, Cam Johnson had a 48% driving kick rate that would have ranked ahead of Donovan and Darius in the Cavs. DeAndre Hunter has a 24% driving kick rate, which ranks now dead last on the Cavs, and he's only finishing 65% of his shots at the rim, which is about league average. It's nothing special. However, you put him into this system, you add him into a dynamic, record-setting offense, you throw him into a culture that has been created here by Kenny Atkinson and Donovan Mitchell and the leaders on this team, and you hope you can bring the best out of DeAndre Hunter. Just because what we've seen him do in Atlanta for the last 3 or 4, I think 4 or 5 seasons. He's in the same draft class as Darius, so 5 seasons. What he's done in Atlanta does not necessarily mean that is all he is capable of doing. It just means we haven't seen him in another system, so we don't know what his full offensive capabilities are. In a system where he's asked to drive and kick more, is he capable of finding open shooters in the corner when he beats his defender off the dribble? Is he capable of playing in a pick and roll situation as the primary ball handler, leading Evan Mobley to open lobs and leading Jared Allen on pocket passes? I don't know. We haven't seen it too often in Atlanta, and maybe we'll see him utilized in that facet more frequently here with the Cavaliers. It's also fair to question that sorry, I got a text message I had to read, that with the addition of DeAndre Hunter and having a more capable scorer in the 5th starter role, there are going to be more driving lanes available for Darius, Donovan, Evan, and Jared. Because think about this. Dean Wade, who I'm a big fan of, we talked about this, is only shooting 34% from the corner on threes this year, 35%, 34, 35. He was a 3 or 4 point lower percent shooter from the corners than DeAndre Hunter is. And I can assure you this, Dean Wade, who averages about 6 points a game, versus DeAndre Hunter, who's averaging 19 points a game, draw a lot of different attention from the defense, even if they're in the exact same spot. You feel a lot more comfortable helping off Dean Wade in the corner than you would helping off DeAndre Hunter in the corner. And let's say you do help off of DeAndre Hunter in the corner. When Darius drives and kicks to Dean Wade, sure, Dean Wade could take a dribble and get to the lane and finish, but it's not what he's looking to do. DeAndre Hunter is much more capable, and we've seen it in Atlanta this season in particular, of taking guys off the dribble in rotation, attacking the closeouts, and making plays happen. This is not just a defensive boost for Cleveland. He is an offensive upgrade over the Dean Wade spot. Little different, doesn't score in the same ways Max Strus does, but he is averaging 19 points a game this season, guys, shooting 39% from 3 and 46% from the field. He was in the running to be the NBA's 6th man of the year, and I'm very curious to see if Kenny Atkinson decides to immediately insert him into the starting lineup, or do you allow him to continue coming off the bench and figuring out which facets of the Cavs rotation does he play best with? Does he fit best when the Cavs take out Darius and Jarrett and he's playing alongside Donovan and Evan? Or maybe he has better chemistry with DG, so you stagger his minutes to start or come off the bench and fill in that second unit role where they bring on Jerome and whoever else to align with the minutes of Garland and Jared Allen. This is a terrific move for the Cavs because now they have that flexibility. And here's the last kind of final thought I have, then I'll read some comments to wrap it up. At the end of the day, depth does not win championships. Depth wins regular season games. Stars and your best 5 or 6 players win championships. You can try and argue with me. I'm not going to entertain it. You need depth. You can't just win with 5 guys, but find me a championship that's ever been won by the 7th, 8th, and 9th best players on an NBA team. It doesn't happen. Your stars and your closing 5 win championships. And right now, the Cavs' closing 5 could be a number of different combinations, but you know you have at least these 5 on any given moment, at any given night. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. You have 6'10" in Jared Allen, who's an above-average rim protector. You have 6'11" Evan Mobley, who's a perennial defensive player of the year. You have 6'8" DeAndre Hunter, who has a 7'2" wingspan and was known as a defensive stopper when he came into the NBA. You can argue some of the defensive statistics have taken a hit. He's been asked to take on a more offensive role of late, but he has all the physical tools to be an elite defensive player when he locks in on that end of the court. It's all about effort. And when the championship's on the line and you're playing in playoff series, a lot of the guys who have the physical traits to be really good defenders elevate their games and lock down guys when you don't necessarily see it in the regular season because it's the regular season. Nobody plays defense. Those three in your front court, alongside Darius and Donovan in your backcourt. That's a damn good closing five. And is it as good as the Celtics starting five? I'd probably still lean with Boston. But outside of Boston, I think you can make an argument that is the best starting five in the Eastern Conference. That's it. Done. Finito. Maybe the Knicks. I prefer Cleveland's. Milwaukee, we'll see what they finish doing with the trade deadline in 40 minutes, but I'm still taking Cleveland. The Orlando Magic? Nah, I'm still taking Cleveland. And hell, let me see how DeAndre Hunter fits in, and maybe I pick Cleveland over Boston in this hypothetical argument. But bottom line, the Cavaliers, another trade has come in. The Atlanta Hawks have traded Bogdanovich to the Clippers for Bones Highland, Terrence Mann, 3 second-round picks. I'm guessing some of the ones acquired by Atlanta from Cleveland are now going to the Clippers. Okay, it doesn't involve them, but I wanted to make sure it did involve the Cavs. I saw the Hawks in the tweet. I apologize. Bottom line, the Cleveland Cavaliers got a legit 3-and-D wing that could be part of their closing five without disrupting the core four, without giving up Jalen Tyson, without giving up their 2031 first-round pick, and most importantly, all while getting under the luxury tax. Koby Altman, take a bow, my friend. You have certainly earned it. George and Caris, thank you for your contributions. We wish you nothing but the best in Atlanta. And I do mean this when I say this. You guys will truly be missed in this Cleveland Cavaliers atmosphere. Over 300 comments here, so I'm not going to be able to read them all. I truly apologize. But I have 2 super chats. Let's start with those. Just 2 new members. Shout out to Kenny Perryman for becoming a member and to Neil Schwartz for becoming a member. Couple comments. How long is Hunter signed through? Let me just confirm this. I believe he has 2 years after this season. So according to Spotrac, DeAndre Hunter has this season. I was right. This season. Then he makes $23 million next season. Then in 2026-27, he makes $25 million, a very palatable contract. So the Cavs have DeAndre Hunter under control for this season and the next 2 seasons. Let's see. Does it? C. Smith 80 says, does Hunter really put us over the top, though? Boston is the team to beat until they are dethroned. Oklahoma City is an absolute wagon, and they're getting Chet Holmgren back tomorrow. Does it make Cleveland the team to beat? I don't think so. Does it give them a much better chance of matching up with the top-tier athletic teams in the NBA? Yes. So I do think this is an upgrade over what they had, even if it messes with chemistry a little bit. Let's see. Bajoki said, start Wade, bring him off the bench. JG from Space says, no more Niang, and Tristan Thompson reports on FanDuel. That's going to be a bummer. I'm telling you guys. George Niang is a hero in that locker room, and you can laugh about some of the on-court stuff if you want. I think it's overblown. He is legitimately, and I mean legitimately, beloved in the locker room. So we're going to figure out how much chemistry really matters, because I'm telling you, that locker room will not be the same on Monday night next time we're there when they take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. JG from Space says, I wonder why the Hawks even did it. Aren't they trying to compete right now too? This move from the Hawks standpoint gets them a little more cap space this summer with the expiring contract of Caris Levert. They also have second-round picks they can try and trade up. They don't have their own first-round pick this season. That belongs to the San Antonio Spurs. So, yeah, this trade makes a lot more sense for the Cavs than it does for the Hawks. I don't really know what their final end goal is here with this team, but they have a bunch of wings. It was a little bit of over repetition in certain skill sets, and he was their third wing. He was behind Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, who just got hurt. He was their sixth man, but they just drafted Zachariah Risache with the first overall pick. They all play the same position. So their money they're going to save from Caris Levert, maybe they can use to sign a big man or another guard in the offseason. But they are certainly out of playoff contention now after the Jalen Johnson injury. Did they get under the apron? Demon 454 says, yes, they did. They are now under the luxury tax, assuming that this third team part of the deal, which is still not finalized, doesn't bring another asset back to Cleveland. If it stays as currently constructed, yes, they are under the luxury tax. Yes, they have a roster spot open, which means they can still sign a buyout player. But that is all dependent on whatever third team is involved in this deal, not sending someone back to Cleveland, which would eat up some of their cap space. They have about $2 million-ish now to spend on a buyout guy following this trade. All right, let's see what else we got. Couple more here, couple more. Tony Maselli says, can Dean Wade stay healthy, though? That's a great question. And guess what? You now have a little bit of insurance because before this trade, you did not have anyone who played a similar role to Dean Wade. DeAndre Hunter, I think, is a better version of Dean Wade. So, yes, can he stay healthy? I don't know. Is it possible that now you don't need him to be as healthy because you have a replacement? 1,000%. Waterboy ENT says, is anyone upset with this trade? I think this is good for all of us. Like the stream for McNuggets, says Taylor. Yes, please hit the like button. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We got over 1,600 people in here now. This is awesome. Listen, this is why I love the YouTube community. I love the Cavs fans out there. I love Cleveland because we get to go live and talk. And we got, 1,600 of my best friends hanging out with me talking about why the Cavs just made a terrific trade deadline move. As I'm looking for some more comments, I know you don't want to hear this. I love George. It's going to suck that he's not there. He was funny in the locker room. Always kind of brought a different element to interviews and would be honest. You could ask about anything. So that's going to be a loss. It sucks they have to trade him, but it is what it is. And to do business, you have to give something to get something. So that is the cost of doing business. One or two more. Dan O says, I like having Strus on the bench again, not because he's a bad basketball player, because it helps him. It helps to have a plug like him off the bench being a quality player. Yeah, I do think regardless of let's hear. I'm not going to read any more comments. I appreciate the comments. Let's just do one thought exercise here, and then we will wrap it up. Your playoff 8. Let's go through the playoff 8 right now. You have your core 4. They're locked in. DeAndre Hunter, locked in. Dean Wade, locked in. Ty Jerome, locked in. Who is the playoff 8th? Who is that next guy? Is it a Okoro? Is it Sam Merrill? Is it a buyout guy? Is it Jalen Tyson? Who am I missing? Am I missing somebody? Am I not thinking of somebody here? ESPN Cavs stats. I feel like Strus. Sorry, Strus. There's your 8. If your playoff 8, sorry, dumb brain fart. If your playoff 8 is the core 4, Hunter, Wade, Jerome, and Strus, where's the weak link? You feel pretty good about all 8 of those guys not being a pumpkin come playoff time. Then you have the option to extend it if you want to Okoro, to Merrill, to Craig Porter Jr., to whoever they end up bringing in as a buyout guy. And one name I'm telling you to keep an eye out for is Ben Simmons. Like it or not, multiple people with the Cavs have mentioned Ben Simmons to me as a legitimate possibility, and I would not be surprised in the least if Ben Simmons ends up being the Cavs' buyout target. They still don't truly have a backup big. That's the one hole on the roster that you can still point to and say, I'm not 100% sure they have a real backup big, but that could be addressed in the buyout market. Mo Bamba's a name. Potentially Kevin Love's a name I like if he were to be bought out by Miami. Simmons could be your backup big in a sense. But bottom line, guys, we've been talking for 24 minutes. The Cavs have traded George Niang, Caris Levert, and 3 second-round picks to Atlanta for DeAndre Hunter. Koby Altman got the 3-and-D wing this team needed without giving up the 2031 first, without giving up Jalen Tyson, and without going over the luxury tax. In fact, he got the best player in the deal and got under the luxury tax, barring any complications here as the Hawks and the Cavs look to find a third team to help finalize and facilitate this deal. At the end of the day, it is a gut punch giving up Caris and George because they've been so valuable to this team so far. But Koby Altman thought that DeAndre Hunter gave them a better chance to compete and win an NBA championship than how the roster was currently constructed. And for one, I don't disagree. I appreciate you guys tuning in to this Ultimate Cavaliers breaking stream. Over 1,700 of you guys tuned in. I love you all. And as always, go Cavs.